When my daughter was born, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. The best because she gave me a purpose. The worst because I wasn't ready to be the man she needed. It's 10:30 at night. I'm 21 years old. And there's a photo of me holding her for the first time. And I don't look like a dad. I look like a kid holding a kid. I just got a full-time job, thought I knew how life worked, thought I had everything figured out. But in that moment, I realized I didn't know a fucking thing. Not about life, not about responsibility, and definitely not about being a father. Because no one tells you this when you have a kid young. You're not just raising them, you're trying to raise yourself at the same time. At 21, I wasn't thinking about being a dad. I was thinking about money, games, cars, doing what I wanted when I wanted. No structure, no long-term thinking, no real responsibility. I thought I was a man. But the truth is, I hadn't even figured out who I was yet. And that's the problem. Because life doesn't wait for you to be ready. Sometimes it just drops responsibility on you and says, deal with it. Overnight, everything changes. You go from full freedom to every decision having weight. Bills, rent, child relying on you for everything. No warm-up, no easing into it, just pressure. At the same time, me and my partner, now wife, were moving into our own place. Even though it was rented, it didn't feel small. It felt heavy. Like if I don't get this right, everything falls apart. And that pressure, it doesn't switch off. And then people start disappearing. Friends you thought would always be there, gone. Plans, gone. That version of your life, gone. At that time, it feels personal, but it's not. They were there for the lifestyle, not for you. And having a kid young, that exposes that very quickly. And then came the thing that really put pressure on everything. Money. We were arguing about it a lot. And if I'm being honest, it was on me. Because of the debt I'd built up being young and careless, after bills we had about £100 left. Some months, not even that. And when you've got a baby, that's not spare money. That's stress. That's arguments waiting to happen. Every decision becomes a problem. And then it got worse. Car crashes, more cars on finance, more bad decisions stacked on top of each other. Until eventually, I couldn't even get insured. And that's a low place to be, because now I can't even get myself to work. My wife had to drive me every day. And that does something to you, because you're supposed to be the one holding it together, and instead you're relying on her just to function. That hits your pride and your confidence. And whether you admit it or not, changes how you show up at home. Looking back now, it wasn't bad luck. It was just how I was living. No discipline, no foresight, no understanding of consequences. And when you've got a kid, those consequences don't just hit you anymore. There was one day that really stuck with me. I took my daughter to see my mum and dad, and on the outside it looked normal, but inside I was done. Mentally exhausted, barely sleeping, and constantly stressed. And if I'm being honest, I was annoyed. Annoyed that my life felt so restricted, like everything had changed and I wasn't ready for it. I remember sitting there holding her, and I felt nothing. No emotion, no connection, just numb. And that scared me, because that's your child. You're supposed to feel something. And I remember thinking, I'm failing. I'm not giving her what she deserves. And that's a hard thing to admit, because you can lie to everyone else, but not to yourself in moments like that. Not long after that, depression hit me. And now I'm trying to raise a child while not even understanding my own mind. Trying to be present, trying to be strong, but inside I'm lost. And as a man, you don't get taught how to deal with that. You just crack on, bottle it up, push through, but deep down you know you're not right. But I'll say this straight. I wasn't the father I should have been in those early years. Not because I didn't love her, but because I didn't have the maturity to show up properly. I was still reckless, still figuring myself out, still reacting instead of leading. And that's a hard truth, but it's real. But here's what changed everything. Having her forced me to grow up. There was no more drifting, no more I'll sort it later. I had to step up. With money, I got better. With responsibility, I got better. As a partner, I got better. Not overnight, but consistently because I had to. And that's why I say it now. Having my daughter was the best worst thing to ever happen to me. The best because she made me become something. The worst because she came into my life before I was ready. If you're a young dad listening to this and you feel out of your depth, like you're winging it, like you're not the man you should be yet, you're not alone. But listen, at some point, you've got to stop hiding behind your age and decide to become the man your family needs. If this hits you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because there's a lot of lads going through this silently, and they don't have to. New episodes drop every Monday at 7 a.m. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.